Hi, I'm Jay, and today on Jay's World Kitchen, we're making naan bread. Naan bread is a traditional Indian bread, and usually it's made in a tandoori oven. Of course, I don't have one of those in my kitchen, unfortunately, but I'm going to show you how to make it on a regular cast iron frying pan. It's a great side for a number of different dishes, specifically if you're doing something that is Indian themed. So without any further ado, let's get on to what the ingredients are. This is a pretty straightforward recipe, and there's not a ton of ingredients. So to start off with, you're going to need a tablespoon of yeast, 1 cup of warm water, and I just use the hottest tap water I can get, and a 1/4 cup of sugar. And I combine those three into a pouring jug and leave them for about 10 minutes so that the yeast can bloom. While that's blooming, you're going to get together your other ingredients. So you're going to need 4.5 cups of flour. I just use an all-purpose flour. You're going to need 1 egg, 2 teaspoons of salt, 3 tablespoons of milk, and that's about it. Once your yeast has bloomed, we're going to simply add our salt to the flour and add our egg. And if you're not confident opening your eggs over your flour, do it in something else and then pour it in. And we're going to add in our yeast mixture, which has bloomed quite well. I'm doing this by hand, but you can use a KitchenAid mixer if you want, if that's what you prefer. I just like to use my hands and get a little bit messy in there and mix it up. Once your dough has started coming together, you can add in your milk just to get that last little bit of moisture. And I find, like, I live in a very dry climate, so sometimes I do have to add a little bit more water. If you do, just sprinkle a little bit of warm tap water into your dough and just keep mixing. It does take a little while to come together. Like I said, you can use some kind of countertop mixer if you prefer. I just like to get in there, especially with breads, because it is a lot nicer to knead it by hand. And you want your dough to come together. It's going to be a little sticky in places, and just until it's smooth, and then we'll start kneading on the counter. And as you can see, there's still like quite a lot of dry at the bottom here, so we're just going to add another dash of water there. And again, not too much. You don't want this to become totally moist, but you do need it to combine. So, and if you find you have the opposite problem, if there's too much humidity and your dough is very sticky, you may want to add just a little bit of flour, but you don't have to add a lot because we're going to use some when we knead this as well. So, and you just want to mix it until the dough forms a ball like that. And now we're going to do some kneading. And when your dough has come together, you're going to put it down on a floured surface and you're going to start kneading it. And you're going to knead it for about 5 to 10 minutes. And you want to do that until everything is nice and smooth and until the dough comes together. I'm not going to bore you with watching me do this for 5 or 10 minutes. When your dough is smooth and elastic, you're going to break it into a ball. And I just use the same bowl. You don't have to, I guess. You could use a clean one. And you're just going to take a very little bit of oil and just coat the bottom of your bowl. I actually like to swirl around most of the bowl. A little bit of pool at the bottom. I put the dough in with the one side and sort of squish it around, making sure that everything is covered. And then cover that with plastic wrap take a kitchen towel, throw it over the top, and put it in a warm place to rise for about 45 minutes to an hour. And we'll come back to it then. And the dough's been rising for about an hour now, and as you can see, it's already come up out the top. And now we're going to break it up, roll it out, and we'll start getting that cooking. And so once our dough is ready, we're just going to lightly flour our surface again. And take our dough out and just knead it a little bit, just to punch it down and smooth it out a little. It's going to be a little oily, that's okay. And add some more flour. And you're going to sort of break them off into chunks that are probably a little bit bigger than a golf ball. Make them round and be generous with your flour so that it doesn't stick, and roll them out. They don't have to be perfect, they don't have to be perfectly round or anything like that. And I roll them out and then just pile them on a plate and just repeat the process until all the dough is done. So over at our stove, we have a cast iron pan on just below medium heat. The problem is that if you have it too high, it does tend to burn really fast. I've also melted a large amount of butter, and we're going to start off by putting some of that on the pan, and then we're going to take our rolled out naan bread and just toss it on there and give it a good dash of that melted butter on top of that piece and just let it rise. Now the first couple of ones you're always going to run into, you know, adjusting your heat and trying to get that right, but you'll see it'll puff up real good. You want your bread to get nice and golden brown, and then put it on a plate and carry on with your next one. Exactly the same method. And really there's no such thing as too much butter for this. And of course you're just going to repeat this process until all your bread is done. So it may take a little while, and it's really important that you are paying close attention. Especially with cast iron frying pans, it can be very difficult to find just the right temperature. So some of them are going to come out nice and golden brown. Some of them might be a little bit on the darker side, but that's okay, because once you get them going, they're nice and spongy and soft and hot and delicious. And like, we got quite a big yield out of that one little batch. But the absolute proof of the pudding is in the flavor, because this wonderful bread is pull apart and just absolutely to die for. Buttery and just so tasty and so good. Now, next week we're going to make a dish that pairs so perfectly with this. We're making butter chicken. So join us next week on this channel. Please remember to like and subscribe. If you'd like to see more, please remember, click the link to my Patreon down in the comments below. We appreciate your support. Until next week.